Tense. Tense.
Good afternoon, everyone.
And fun.
We are raising our guidance.
Great success. 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 Great success. Success. Success means great profit. Great profit. Great profit. Profit. Mediocre success still means profit.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Live TV Ratings Talk, live from Buffalo, New York. I'm Brandon Thurston, broadcasting on YouTube on the Wrestlenomics YouTube channel, where we'll talk about, I've got this graph, this table open for some reason, but this is the news, that AEW Dynamite did 984,000 viewers, just under 1 million. Hasn't done a million since October 6th, I think. 0.37 in the demo. Short of Raw's 0.42. Is that correct? I'm going to check the spreadsheet. I thought it was 0.40. No, it was 0.42. 0.40 is what it did the week before. Okay. So, AEW Dynamite on its full gear, post-full gear episode, up from recent weeks. If we look at, let's look at, this is AEW Dynamite. It is up from recent weeks. Where in weeks prior, let's see if we look at the sheet. In weeks prior, last week it did 913. Let's make this bigger. Last week it did 913. Again, this week doing 984. That's in thousands, of course. 878,000. 941,000, which is a little bit lower than it did last night. And now we're getting into Saturday preemptions, and we have to go all the way back to October 6th to find a 1 million mark here. Apparently, I'm dropping some frames here, so I'm just going to make a quick adjustment. I think I can do that while I'm broadcasting, right? If I go to, let's lower the target bit rate and see if that helps. So that's Dynamite. What I want to ask, though, is this is a post-pay-per-view Dynamite. We know, historically, legend has it, that post-pay-per-view Raws help the Raw rating. In some cases, that's true. We'll take a look at that for Raw these days in a moment. But what I want to do, and what we can do with the Wrestlenomics viewership spreadsheet, is we can look at, let's just look at Dynamites here. I'm not going to worry about Rampage, because Rampage is a younger show. And let's look at sorting this out to just the Dynamites, and we'll look at all the Dynamites that took place immediately after AEW's pay-per-views, which are programmed in here as it's taking its time to sort. Let's see here. I'm gonna jack my gain up to a bit. Okay, so there's all the Dynamites, and now I just want to look at the pay-per-views. I think they're all entered in here, so that just means I'm going to eliminate the blanks. This is also a Google Sheets tutorial video. So there's all of the pay-per-views. Does that make sense? By the way, the pay-per-view, according to me, did about 145,000 buys on pay-per-view. That's what it looks like it's tracking towards. That would be the second highest behind roughly 205 pay-per-view buys for All Out. In any event, 9 pay-per-views. Is that how many pay-per-views there have been? What I want to look at is, a good place to start would be looking at this column here, the median. Looking at that viewership or that demo compared to the median of the last 4. And what we see is, probably want to make this a little bit smaller so my head's not in front of it. But what we see is there is this one rating here in June 4th after Double or Nothing that was way down, from where it had been in prior weeks. And the two pay-per-views before that, the one after Revolution and the one after Full Gear last year, basically no difference here. Down a little bit in total viewership, up 1%. That's basically no difference in the demo. The all-out pay-per-view following the news of Bryan Danielson and Adam Cole coming to AEW following CM Punk's first match in 7 years. Huge increase. This is one of the most viewed Dynamites ever. I think this is number 2 behind the debut in 2019. It's the debut, and then it's September 8th, 2021, the first Dynamite after All Out. Did 1.3 million viewers, did 681,000 in the demo. That comes out to a 0.52 in the demo. So that had a huge effect. And I think we see that too in WWE in some cases, where you look at the SummerSlam increase, the SummerSlam Delta, let's call it, versus the mean in the last 4 weeks. Big increase for the first Raw after SummerSlam, following the returns of Becky Lynch and Brock Lesnar. So return, big debut, big news, people tune in. And probably, I would guess that's more so the case in younger viewers. Not in that case. It was up 45% and only up 15% with the younger half of the demo. But anyway, if we look back further in history, after All Out 2020, up 27%. So I would call that a pay-per-view bump. That's about what a pay-per-view bump would look like, I would expect. After Double or Nothing 2020, in the midst of the pandemic, up 19% total, up 20% in the demo. After Revolution 2020, up 3%, up 13%. And after Full Gear 2019, up 7%, up 8%. So there's that. For some reason, we don't have a delta here for this one. I apologize for the lack of 18-34 delta. By the way, I've put in the chat a link to a survey. If you have time and you wouldn't mind, I would appreciate if you click on that survey. If you haven't taken it already, and give me some quick feedback, how I can better super serve the Wrestlenomics audience. And put your questions in the chat. After I'm done going through what's on the post-it note, I will scroll through the chat and try to take questions. So, new low. That was a new low, in fact. And this was after, again, the Double or Nothing. This was a Friday preemption. Well, that's why it was down so low. Okay. Anyway, so you can kind of throw that one away because it was a preemption. So that's Dynamite. And did this? So how did this one do? Up 8%, up 7%. I guess it's on par with the Full Gear bump of last year, right? Nearly identical. Up 7 and 8, up 8 and 7. This episode actually down a little bit in the younger half of the demo, so it's really the 35 to 49 that really responded here. I admit I was tuning in, so I might have been affecting the number. So there's that. Let's see. So was this a pay-per-view bump? Mildly. So I want to ask the same question about Raw for a moment, just for some frame of reference. Like, does this really affect Raw? Is there really still a pay-per-view bump? Well, in some cases, is what I found. And if I just exclude everything that's not a pay-per-view, that's what we've got already here. Great. And what we see, if we look at the medians here, let's make this a little bit smaller so you can see everything at once. All right, so we can see the name of the pay-per-view here in this column. SummerSlam, up huge, 28%, 35%. That's in the younger half of the demo. What am I looking at here? Up 14% total, up 28% in the demo. Money in the Bank, a pay-per-view with consequences. Who's holding the briefcase? People tune in. I think that's what's happening. People are tuning in to see what are the consequential results. What a surprise that consequential results drive economics. After WrestleMania, up 15%, up 27%. That's usually the biggest Raw of the year, is the one after WrestleMania. WrestleMania Backlash, though, down. Hell in a Cell, up a little bit. Not that remarkable. All single digits here. You know, kind of mid to low single digits here for even Royal Rumble. Probably the second biggest pay-per-view of the year. Most years. Every year, just about, right? Up 3%, 0, 1, TLC. And you think, Royal Rumble is something that does have consequences. Like I said, I'm theorizing that Money in the Bank would draw viewers in because people are eager to see what the results were, what the consequences were. But Royal Rumble didn't seem to do that this year. Up only 3% and basically even in the demo versus, again, we're looking at deltas versus the last 4 episodes, also known as the last 28 days. SummerSlam last year, which had a return of Roman Reigns at the end of the pay-per-view, even though Roman Reigns wasn't appearing on Raw, he immediately went to SmackDown, I believe, up 21%, up 40%. Maybe there were other things that people were interested in related to the fallout from SummerSlam. I don't know. We do see Payback doing well here. Maybe there are other factors involved here too. And I think I even don't I have a tab dedicated to this? One of the dozens of tabs here. By the way, you can get access to all this data yourself by going to patreon.com/Wrestlenomics. Subscribers get access to this massive spreadsheet. Pay-per-view bump is the name of the tab. And I have not looked at this in advance here, so I don't know if this is gonna tell us what I think it's gonna tell us, but kind of a more all-in-one look here. This is looking only at total viewership. Let's slide this over here for you. And what we see, I'll make this bigger here too, is in 2021, it's mostly green. It's mostly up. Double digits. Is it up by double digits? Well, in the case of WrestleMania, in the case of SummerSlam, in the case of Money in the Bank, yes. I might not have Extreme Rules. I apparently don't have entered in here yet. But if we look back years prior, most post pay-per-views are coinciding with an increase in viewership versus the last 4 weeks. Most of them. In most years, we do see a double-digit increase for Royal Rumble. Not the last 2, though. Up 1%, up 3%. Money in the Bank, pretty consistent performer for a PPV bump. 21%, 5% the year before that, so not great, but then 10%, 12%, 19% are what it did in the years prior. So I would say that in the case of WWE, a Raw after a pay-per-view isn't guaranteed to do an increase in viewers. And there may be other factors involved, but certain big pay-per-views, definitely it helps. WrestleMania, the most certain one. And in some cases, yes, Money in the Bank, SummerSlam, usually Royal Rumble, but not lately. But those B pay-per-views, not so much. Not so much of a guarantee that that's going to cause viewership to increase. In the case of AEW, if we go back to the data tab, this is where all the data really is. If we look at the Dynamites again, is there a pay-per-view bump? In some cases, yes. In some cases, I would say so. I mean, in some cases, we see a double-digit bump. And we're only dealing with somewhat 9 data points here. So in some cases, it seems that there is. I mean, I think this all-out situation is a special case where you had the returning or the debuts of major stars for the company, and maybe the CM Punk match helped too. After All Out 2020, was there something big on All Out 2020 that people would have wanted to tune in for? Did something happen on the pay-per-view? I don't remember. You can remind me in the chat if you do. And then after Double or Nothing, an increase in viewership for sure. So maybe there is with AEW. I would say next time, which will be after Revolution, I would say that you should expect, if all other things are equal, that viewership should be up by the high single digits, roughly what this one did for full year. Up 8% in total viewership, up 7% in the demo. So there's that. That's the pay-per-view bump. Bullet point on my post-it note. And now, Wrestlenomics is about to become Soccernomics or something. Footballnomics. As the news just broke today, this afternoon, that the Premier League, I don't know anything about soccer. I played soccer as a child. Indoor soccer. I was pretty good at it, I think. I was pretty good. The Premier League and NBC Universal. NBC Universal has held the Premier League rights since 2013. I don't know who held them before, if anybody held them. But NBCU renewed once and is renewing again. This time for reportedly $2.7 billion. I think Andrew Marchand from the New York Post is reporting $2.76 billion over 6 years. If we get the calculator out, 2.76 billion, which is that's what 2.76 billion looks like, divided by 6 years, an average annual value of $460 million. I've got 450 here, $10 million here, $10 million there, close enough. So the EPL was at $83 million in its first term from 2013 to 2016, and then 2016 to 2022. It doubled its average annual value. So it got a 2.0x increase in TV rights fees. Now, it's not just getting its TV rights fees doubled, it's getting a 2.7x increase. So, there's that. What does any of this have to do with pro wrestling? What does any of this have to do with wrestling TV ratings? Well, where's my chart showing the timelines? Here's the timeline. The biggest event in wrestling is not WrestleMania. It's not an AEW pay-per-view. It's not Wrestle Kingdom. It is the period between roughly the beginning of next year and mid-2023, when the TV rights for WWE Raw, WWE Smackdown, and AEW Dynamite probably AEW Dynamite too, depending on the option, will all be up for renegotiation. Last round, WWE Raw and Smackdown got a 3.6x increase in its TV rights fees across Raw and Smackdown. Remember, again, relevant to this conversation, EPL getting 2.6. WWE in 2018 got a 3.6. I'm sorry, 2.7 is what EPL is getting. 2.7x increase. WWE in 2018 got a 3.6x increase. In the financial estimates that I've been doing for WWE, I'm modeling in, I think something like a 1.7x increase is what I'm modeling in for 2025. So, what does this mean for wrestling? On one hand, it's good that other sports properties are getting an increase. I suppose it shows that live sports is still growing in value. In the case of NBC Universal, does that make WWE feel like, well, they got a big increase? Does that mean there's going to be any money left over for us? I would think it's more the former, that live sports, another live sports property getting a big increase in its TV rights fees, even though it's from your partner, one of your partners that pays you, your biggest partner. I would think that's still a positive. I think I would still view that positively. The TV business, the live TV business, even though it's on the decline, even though linear TV viewing may be on the decline, and aging certainly. Nielsen came out with another one of their pie charts today, and I wonder if I can find it, that showed, because I think I retweeted it, that will show the majority of watch time is still, I'm just going to drop this right onto the slide, I guess. This is from Nielsen, showing that this is something that Nielsen tweeted earlier today, right? Yes, this afternoon, showing that, look at this. And again, this is people over age 2, not 18 to 49, not the millennials, not Gen Zers, but the total population. This is in the U.S. So I'm almost certain, it doesn't say, but I'm almost certain this refers to people in the U.S. This is for the month of October, the full month. last month, and we've got 28% watching broadcast. This is time, right? I think this is time. Yeah. I don't know. I think it's time. 28% broadcast, 39% or 37% cable, which of course comes out to what? 65%, 2/3 of time spent watching. I don't know. I guess this is TV. Probably wouldn't include things like mobile devices, tablets. Not sure. Suffice to say that still, even if we're just thinking about people watching Netflix and YouTube, including YouTube TV, and Hulu, including Hulu Live, Amazon Prime, Disney Plus, and all other streaming combined, is 1/3 of TV watch time. So still, 2/3 of the time that people in the United States are spending looking at a television, they're looking at traditional TV. So, yeah, it's just a general overview, explanation of what's happening in TV, media, economics, as far as I understand it. Yes, the TV industry, the pay TV industry, cable/satellite, is on the decline in terms of subscriptions. Still a very profitable business. I tend to think this is overwhelmingly supported by people over the age of 50 whose ad eyeballs are not as valuable. But I don't think these people are, even if they're economically incentivized to do so, they're not going to easily convert to streaming. I think even if it costs them a lot of money, they're going to hold on to their bundle longer than you might expect. So yeah, I think pay TV is going to be okay, and if pay TV is okay, media rights fees are probably going to be okay too. But we'll see. So that's that. We could talk about, I'll probably delete this so I still have my timeline here. This image, by the way, here, might end up on a mug someday. In fact, co-host Chris Gullo already has such a mug. In any event, we will talk about NXT 2.0. Here is the state of total viewership, with the last 2 years faded in the background of NXT 2.0. We do have quite a few people. I'm looking at the YouTube studio back end here for the first time. We do have some people tuning in and saying things. That's nice. So, NXT 2.0 did its lowest, let's see if I can do this off the top of my head, did its lowest 18-49 ever on the USA Network. I would imagine that even includes, well, that was on Sci-Fi before. There was a 2017 episode of NXT as like an experiment that aired on the USA Network at like 7. Anyway, I don't know if this includes that. I would guess it does, because that episode, if I recall, did something like 700,000 viewers. But anyway, this episode, this past Tuesday, let's look at what the number actually was here on our big scoreboard. 574,000 viewers, 143,000 of those in the demo of 18-49, 0.11 in the demo. Let me see if I can change the wait time. I have it's a 2-minute wait time, is it not? No, it's a 3-minute wait time. I will lower the wait time. I will lower slow mode down to 60 seconds. You all better behave yourselves though. But anyway, NXT. This was the lowest 18-49 rating for NXT ever on USA Network. There were 2 preemptions of NXT to Sci-Fi over the summer. One of those preemptions was better than this. So the lowest for NXT ever in this modern NXT is now on linear primetime cable. The lowest ever really is, and I guess we can just look at it here. This will take a minute, but the lowest ever really is one of the preemptions to Sci-Fi. And this was lower than one of the preemptions. what do I have in here? Takeovers or something that are showing up still, but not lower than the other preemptions. So if we go here, control down, if we look at where are the sci-fi preemptions, so here they are, July 27th and August 3rd, 150,000 in the demo, 135,000 in the demo. So 143 is right in the middle. But this is lower than any of the other airings, first run on the USA Network. So this was the lowest total viewership since February 10th. February 10th. Of course, a time in the Wednesday Night War when NXT was going head-to-head with AEW Dynamite. And there we have the Red Cell announcing the new low for NXT in the demo. So there's that. Now, I did point out not long ago that, hey, yes, this is, by the way, this is a very old audience. If you look at the median age chart here, it's, oh my God, it's 62 years old is the median viewer age. We did have one instance of Impact with its volatile sample scoring a 63. But otherwise, the high score belongs to NXT with its, on 2 occasions now, and including this past Tuesday, scoring a 62 in median age. So, what I've noticed in the past, and let's see if it's still true through this month, but when we look at the year-over-year differences by month, and we can look at this sparkline chart right here that shows, NXT kind of a mixed bag here in terms of its viewership up or down year-over-year in each of the last 12 months or so. Total viewership, it's a mixed bag. It's still doing a lot better than the trends of television overall here, where we see non-news cable originals, the top 50 daily averaged, dropping pretty precipitously. But if we looked at the demo's maybe a little bit more negative, with most of the months being down year over year. Again, despite the end of the Wednesday Night War. And then if we look at November, for some reason, November is up year over year in 18 to 34. NXT. I understand NXT's stated goal, at least internally. I'm sure they're not announcing this on TV. They're too busy playing Texas Hold'em. But their goal is to attract a younger audience, especially 18 to 34. So let's check this data here, and let's ask, well, if we look at November, the average 18 to 34 in November is whatever the average of 59, 58, and 50,000 is, which is 56. Small sample, so maybe this is volatile, but 56,000. Now, if we look at the November of 2020, which is right here, oh, wow. In one of these months, they did a 28,000. So that's really dragging that average down. But even so, 41,000 is the average. There's only one month here, one week here where they did 51,000, where they did into the 50s. 28,000, 51,000, 38,000, 48,000. Those are the 18 to 34 viewership numbers for November 2020 for NXT. And if we look down here, let's look at modern times here. November 2021, all 50,000 or better. Was that an anomaly for NXT? What did they do? Let's see, in not November, but December 2020. Was it any better? It was in the 31, 60. I mean, that's a huge difference from week to week, 31 to 60. I got to think that's being artificially volatile because of the smaller sample. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Artificial volatility. And then down here, 33, where the week before was at 60. So, yeah, I think there's some artificial volatility here, but it's the more samples you have, though, the clearer and the more reliable story I think it tells. If we just quickly scroll through, we can see a lot of 50s, 60s, 40s, 70s. This August 10th episode doing 105,000. I think this was the episode that I bring up sometimes of late, where there was news of NXT in turmoil and the younger viewers checked it out. But anyway, there's that. Let's take a look at these year-over-year trends once again here. Looking at 18-49 here, NXT is now, again, this is the all-time low, so it is, of course, well below where NXT was in 2020, and certainly well below where it was in 2019. Total viewership has been floating just under where NXT was last year, again, without the Wednesday Night War, last year in the Wednesday Night War. So, things not looking great for NXT in that view. Again, there's this weird story with 18-34, but maybe there's some artificial volatility there. But as the weeks go on, it's something to continue to monitor. There's that. There's NXT. I want to take a quick look at wide viewership analysis, not just wrestling here, but to see where wrestling falls among all of the other programs. So let's look at this week. You'll have to excuse this network column where I realize it's listing ABC for some programs that are definitely not ABC. Those are broadcast programs where my scripting has not yet mastered figuring out which, especially on the weekends, I have issues because there are extra rows and showbuzz. But anyway, what are the most watched programs of the last 7 days? This is November 11th, Thursday, through yesterday, Wednesday, November 17th. What are the most watched programs that you can find on Showbuzz Daily? Not including things like syndication, not including things like cable reruns or reruns of movies, but things that are on national primetime and things that are on that are cable originals. This wouldn't include, by the way, Showbuzz did not have Tribute to the Troops, by the way. Let's talk about Tribute to the Troops. Why not? I do have a number for Tribute to the Troops. I don't know if I know any other. Do we have other Tribute to the Troops numbers in here? Is it listed as WWE Tribute to the Troops? Do we have others in here? Tribute to the Troops did 2 million viewers, about 2 million viewers even, probably with a lot of NFL lead-ins. I imagine this was airing at different times across the country, but probably most commonly around 5 o'clock p.m. Eastern. So probably after a post-game show on Fox, after an NFL game, strong lead-in. But 2 million viewers, doing more than Raw does. More than Dynamite, more than Raw. So let's see. I don't have 19 or 20 because it was on USA Network. I imagine this was on Fox last year, whenever the Fox deal went into effect, which is October 2019. I don't have it going forward until this year. But the highest Tribute to the Troops that I have in the spreadsheet here, higher than the 4 occasions that I have it for on the USA Network, where it did 1.1, 1.4, 1.4, 1.8 million viewers. Again, 2 million viewers even. 2,030,000 for Tribute to the Troops. Not much to take from it. A 0.51 in the demo, the most watched wrestling program other than SmackDown for the week. Median age viewer of 55.5. So anyway, what was I talking about? What are the most watched programs on television? Where does wrestling fall in? Well, tons of football here. These rows in the light yellow are noting that they are simulcasts of Fox and the NFL Network broadcasting an NFL game on Thursday night. So if we scroll, we see lots of football. Football. We see 60 minutes of the football lead-in. We see Adele one night on with maybe a football lead-in. Yellowstone. Somebody explain to me what Yellowstone is. I've never heard of this until now. Yellowstone on the Paramount Network, the former Spike Network, did 7.5 million viewers. I've never heard of this show before this week. A 1.48 in the demo on cable, doing more than a 0.10 on cable. Is like unheard of. ESPN, yeah, but if you're not like ESPN's Monday Night Football lineup, we got some college football that gets close this week. Survivor, got some NFL. So I'm scrolling here. Number 42 for the week. WWE Smackdown. With its 0.56 in the demo. This is sorted by the demo, by the way, not sorted by total viewership. SmackDown beating out a Lakers and Milwaukee Bucks game from last night, being a college football game between Oxford and Mississippi. Oxford, like there's an Oxford in the U.S. Anyway, the LA Rams, and this is the Manning cast. So anyway, we keep scrolling, and we get WWE Entertainment, all 181 minutes of it, ranking in at number 75. Again, SmackDown, 42 for the week. Again, this doesn't include cable reruns, but there's Raw at number 75, the entire 3 hours averaged together. And we scroll to number 98 to find this week's AEW Dynamite, doing a 0.37 in the demo. Raw, 0.42. By the way, Raw beat AEW in every demo except for men 18 to 49. Dynamite did edge Raw out in 18 to 49 men, which you can see here, by 1%, by a few thousand viewers. Largely driven by a slightly larger margin in men 35 to 49, which is, of course, the older group is the larger group. Older people tend to watch TV. Younger people tend to not watch linear TV. So there's that. If we keep scrolling, and keep scrolling, we get to 199, and we find AEW Rampage with this 0.20 in the demo. The second lowest Rampage ever, I believe, in both total viewership and the demo. But if we keep scrolling, where will we find NXT? 407 is where we find NXT, in the company of SportsCenter at 1 p.m. a.m. I think this is supposed to be a.m. I don't know. In the company of Bill Maher, Real Time with Bill Maher, Real PD Kansas City on the Investigation Discovery Channel, the ID channel, and things of that nature. What is Rampage in the same company as? If we go back up to find Rampage at 199 for the week, Vanderpump Rules, whatever that is, on Bravo. Pardon the Interruption are some of its peers. NBA Courtside, the NBA pregame show on TNT. America Reports on Fox News. The Ingram Angle did a 0.20 on Monday. And we could go on and on here. And what's Dynamite in the same company as, with its 0.37? The Curse of Oak Island on the History Channel. What else? Tucker Carlson. Saturday night, this is probably college football on a network that might be ABC or might not be ABC. And Supermarket Sweep. I don't know what network that's on, but Supermarket Sweep on Sunday at 9. A similar 18 to 49 audience as AEW Dynamite. How about that? Hallmark original movie, My Christmas Family Tree. Family Guy is still airing. By the way, AEW did beat out the challenge. I would say this is a pretty good rank for AEW that's been having a tough time. Let's look at their ranks in prior weeks here. Clear this out to show everything. If you go to the bottom here and scroll over, just look at the cable ranks. We see ranking number 3 this week. Oh, number 3 last week too. But number 6 a couple weeks ago. Number 4 the week before that. Way down to number 10 on the 23rd. This is when it did what? This is when it was on a Saturday. So anyway. I was going to go through the month, but that's probably going to be pretty redundant and telling a pretty similar story to what I was talking about before. Here's my big spreadsheet in progress for tracking media rights fees. But I will look through the chat. If you have questions, if you're still watching, feel free to put them in the chat. Looks like we've been holding up frames pretty well here. I have a stats dashboard now, or I probably always did. I just know how to look for it now. But let's see. I will look for questions. This is from Preston who asks, do you think NXT is in danger of not being renewed by NBC Universal? Maybe. So NXT, if we go back to that slide that shows the timing here, this block of time, let me make sure I'm displaying this well enough. This block of time here in the yellow for NXT, their first term has obviously already expired in September 2021. So they're under a new term. I don't confidently know what NXT was getting paid before or now. When NXT originally moved to the USA Network, many speculated, including stock analysts, that maybe this was worth $50 million a year, maybe $100 million a year. And gradually, those estimates have waned. Clearly, when this new deal was announced, I mean, like it didn't move the stock price at all. Nobody really speculated about it. If this was a big deal, and put this in context, if this deal was really worth $50 million, $50 million, that is the value of WWE's number 2 TV rights deal in the world. That is this number 1 international deal with Sony in India. That's a $50 million per year deal. Is NXT worth that? It can't be. It can't be. Is it worth a lot? I mean, is it somewhere between 0 and 50? It's definitely on the low end of that, I think. What's NXT worth? I would guess no more than $25 million a year, maybe a lot less than that. Now, NXT is no longer under that first term. Did it get an increase? Did it make a lateral movement? Did it get a downgrade? I don't know. It didn't win the Wednesday Night War, so it wasn't like this smashing success. The trouble with the data that we have, as great as the data from Showbiz Daily is, and as valuable as it is, we don't know what reruns do. I mean, if I did some digging and asking, I could find out. What I'm getting to is, what I would want to know is, at 8 o'clock, which is the time that NXT is on other nights or on Tuesdays before NXT was in there, what was being delivered in terms of viewership, especially in the demo. Is it comparable to what NXT is doing? If it's comparable to what NXT is doing, then yeah, they're probably in danger, because what was in there before would be reruns of something, reruns of NCIS or Law and Order or something, which are not very expensive for NBC Universal to put on there. If it's doing a little bit better than what those were doing or are capable of, well, then it depends on what NBCU is really paying for it. If they're paying a ton, but it's only doing a little bit better, if they're paying $50 million, if they're paying $25 million a year for this, and it's only doing a little bit better than Law and Order would do, yeah, they're in danger then. But if they're getting nothing more than an ad revenue share, and it's doing a little bit better than Law and Order would do, if I'm an NBCU executive, I don't know. I think maybe, knowing only what I know, which is not everything, I would think, well, might as well leave it on there, because we're so involved with WWE. It's a chance to promote Peacock to people who may be interested in Peacock and the W Network content that's there. It's a chance to promote all the other things that are on Peacock besides W content. We're involved with WWE in terms of the Miz and Mrs., obviously in terms of Raw. So there's value in all of that synergy being there, and having NXT is one extra piece of that. But this viewership is not impressive. Certainly. It's whatever. It's fine. It's no Chucky, that's for sure. I think Chucky was doing a bit better. So we'll search for other questions now. Ryoga asks, or is it R Yoga? I don't know. But anyway, this person asks, is the negotiation period for all shows for WWE and AEW would have impact on NXT? So the negotiation period, we already have the slide up here. So the negotiation period, if history is any lesson, I'm assuming, because this is what happened in the prior term, and I believe in the term before that, is that these deals for WWE and for Raw and SmackDown were done about a year and a half in advance. So if that's the case, again, then that's where the timing lines up. And if Warner Media chooses to exercise its 1-year option, which I would think it would, because Dynamite seems to be doing pretty well for its time slot, for its network. I know it's not beating Raw or SmackDown on any regular basis, but it is doing pretty well for TNT, I would say. So I would think Warner Media is going to exercise this option, which will put its expiration date just 3 months off of Raw and SmackDown's expiration date. And I think the negotiation period is a pretty wide window. It's not a 3-month window. It's more like maybe a year window, a 1.5-year window. So I think they'll be negotiating around the same time. Now, to get to Impact, and why don't we while I talk about this, put on the screen the slide that has Impact's latest viewership, 79,000 viewers, one of the lowest yet for Impact on Access, 25,000 in the demo. So Impact is owned by Anthem Sports Entertainment, which is the parent company, not just of Impact, but of Access TV as well. So I doubt that there's any sort of term and expiration in the same way that there is for Raw and SmackDown. I tend to believe the main reason why Anthem acquired Access, while it already owned Impact, was to put Impact on Access. And I think Impact is, we don't see below the top 150, but last I knew, and if we look at, I have the massive spreadsheet open right now, so we can look. If we look at everything that has made the Showbiz Daily top 150 cable originals, the top 150 daily in the demo, 18-49, if we look at the only things that have ever appeared in the top 150, still to this day. Now, Access TV has only been appearing in the Showbiz top 150 since December 2020. That said, Impact doesn't rank every week. It has been ranking for a number of weeks in a row now, as of today. But we've got how many? 36 instances of a program ranking in the top 150. And out of those 36, 35 of them are Impact Wrestling. One of them is something called A Year in Music, which is a .02 in the demo. So I tend to believe Access, its number one original program is Impact Wrestling, even though Impact Wrestling does pretty small viewership in the grand scheme of pro wrestling TV viewership. So there's that. And with the dynamic being that, Anthem owns the network, owns the wrestling company, I doubt that they're really paying. They're not paying a TV rights fee, I would think, in the same way that NBC Universal is, or Warner Media is for their wrestling programs. I imagine it's just they're giving Impact a budget. Impact is creating content. Access is airing the content, which has value to them, and it justifies the ad rates that it charges advertisers, and it justifies the carriage fees that cable and satellite systems perhaps pay to carry Access. About half of them do. So there's that. Lad asks, do you think there will be a bidding war for AEW come 2024? I don't know. So I don't know how those economics work out, because here's the thing. I'm suspicious that Warner Media owns a minority stake in AEW, which makes me think, well, are they going to be that interested in negotiating outside of the Warner Media and by then / Discovery universe? Maybe, because I guess even if, I don't know, I don't know enough about how those politics work out. Do you want to negotiate with a Fox? Because Fox, let's take this to a best case scenario here. Fox might pay you hundreds of millions of dollars a year for one of your two programs. Let's say they will. And so that's Warner Media. If it does, theoretically, it's my suspicion, if it does own a stake in AEW, that's Warner Media's equity becoming more valuable, but also it would be a thing that Warner Media partially owns, serving a competitor, which would be Fox or some other network, some other cable network even. Whether that's, I don't know, something in the Viacom world. I don't see NBC Universal doing anything with wrestling other than WWE. And I see NBC Universal staying with WWE because they're, as I mentioned earlier, they're so deeply involved in all these different ways, from Peacock to Ms. and Mrs. to Raw and NXT. I see them staying together. I see, as I've talked about before, I see, if anything, NBC Universal acquiring WWE someday maybe when Vince McMahon isn't around anymore. But anyway, would AEW go to Showtime? I believe AEW did talk to Showtime before its current deal was made with the move to be on TNT originally, in this first run. So I just don't know how. I tend to think that AEW is going to be willing to talk to people outside of Warner Media, because whatever the case, the Khan family owns control of that company, and if maybe Warner Media owns a stake, maybe it doesn't, and the Khan family is going to Tony Khan's going to do what's in the best interest of his company, making the most money and, well, being the most successful that it can be, and having the most guarantee it's going to have a lot of money for a long time and be a success, and then his investment's all going to pay off in the long run. So they probably would talk to other networks. I guess Warner Media could always divest itself of its stake. I don't know. At a pretty good price, right? If AEW does get a huge increase in TV rights fees, either in part through a Warner Media / Discovery distributor or through some other distributor. So will there be a bidding war? I mean, I don't know what a bidding war really is in the TV rights world. This is something I'm hoping to understand in the year and a half or so to come, the dynamics of TV rights negotiations better, and to talk to people who have a lot of experience in that. But I do think that, look at the viewership of AEW, look at the viewership of WWE Raw, very similar, not quite as high, not going against Monday Night Football. When football season's over with, Raw will be a little bit higher, and that difference might get a little bit bigger. But pretty close still. And there's this thing that WWE has going for that AEW doesn't, is that WWE is a long-running brand that you can argue AEW is just a flash in the pan. We've been around forever. We're going to be around forever. We're the dominant brand, and that's true. It's hard to argue against. But all of that besides, still, I think AEW is going to be able to justify a multiple increase in its TV rights fees. Let's say WWE gets a 1.7x or doubles its TV rights fees. Let's say WWE doubles it. Well, I think AEW is probably due for 2x, and then maybe a few more on top of that, maybe 3 or 4x. But we'll see. I think, I don't know. I would think there would be multiple networks interested. Is Fox unhappy enough with Smackdown to look into AEW? Maybe. We'll see. Let's see here. Corey asked how NXT is performing against what was previously airing on the USA Network. We kind of discussed that. That's the right question to ask. Let's see here. Connected TV USA says Kevin Costner stars in Yellowstone. That's why the ratings are up on Paramount TV. Oh, maybe I do know what Yellowstone is. 50 people are watching. I'm impressed that the viewership is increasing here for this program as it goes on. Anyway, Lad asks another question, random question. Do you think there's a chance AEW gets a deal with Warner Media for streaming rights on HBO in the future? I think HBO will not, in the near future, in this decade, have wrestling on HBO Max. and probably, yeah, I mean, if whatever's on HBO linear channel is probably gonna be on HBO Max. I don't see HBO that brand wanting to have anything to do with pro wrestling, as we know it today. I think the same for the same reason we'll never see Apple have a partnership with pro wrestling in any major way, because I think those are prestige brands that would not want to associate themselves with pro wrestling, which still today, even though it's, I think, in the business to business world and in the mainstream view, has become more acceptable, more palatable, still not palatable enough for HBO or Apple. Now, does that mean that AEW might end up on another Warner Media or Discovery owned streaming platform? That's possible. Maybe Discovery Plus would want its live pay-per-view rights and maybe its library rights, or maybe AEW will just start its own streaming service, which is something that Tony Khan has talked about publicly relatively recently. I have to think about it more. I think there's probably a money for AEW to make in doing its own streaming service. It might involve doing things like taking the dark shows and putting them on that streaming service and not on YouTube, or maybe not on YouTube in the time window that it's currently in, which is immediately. But yeah, no, I think streaming rights are something that are definitely I would expect to be negotiated in this next round, which is this round right here for both WWE and AEW, and that maybe a limited number of these programs, maybe think about the quarterly specials that are supposed to be on TNT and starting next year. Maybe those are something that are on the table to be dealt to a streaming platform as well. So there's that. The King of Strong Style asks, I don't know if you cover the new soccer deal in the billions. Is it a good sign or bad sign? I did cover it. I think it's more of a good sign. When am I adding viewers for these streams to the spreadsheet? That's on a higher tier. A few months ago, this is from Tim. Well, that was from Scott, by the way, who wants my streaming data. Tim B asks, a few months ago, much was made about AEW's fan base being a few percentage points more white than WWE. What was WWE's percentage before AEW? Did more white fans just move? I don't think more white fans just moved. I think before AEW existed, WWE had an audience that was something like a quarter African American before AEW. Is there a Scarborough report? Let's see if I can find it quickly. Sports Business Journal in 2013. Obviously, well before AEW. I'm gonna Google Sports Business Journal Scarborough WWE demographics. Maybe would get it. I found this recently because I had to show it to Bix. I don't see it immediately. If I had a few minutes to Google, I would eventually find it. Anyway, if my memory serves me correct, I mean, I'm pretty sure I'm correct here, that WWE has had a large audience, a significant audience, a percentage of its audience who are people of color that is larger than AEW's percentage of its audience that are people of color before AEW existed. When I've talked about this before, I think maybe there's economic factors involved. Maybe AEW, if it had stars who were people of color that were nearer to the main event, maybe they would attract a larger percentage of people of color to their TV audience. And I think I've theorized that, well, if you look at independent wrestling, if you look at maybe the sort of tape trading world, that both of these cultures are sort of where, in part, AEW emanates out of. And I've been on a number of indie shows where I've sometimes, especially like the super indie shows, sort of the prestige indies, and you look out, I've been at the merch table a couple times and sort of stopped myself and been like, man, it's overwhelmingly white men by the looks of it here in this audience. And maybe there's some economic factors that that bear that out. That to travel to indie shows, to tape trade, to be involved in the internet wrestling culture can be more expensive than watching WWE. So maybe that's a factor. We'll take one more question. The King of Strong Style asks, with the move to TBS, how long do you think it will take for us to get a real legit figure of the viewership? So I think you mean how long will it take us to figure out what the normal viewership is for Dynamite on TBS? Well, it depends on what they do in the first few weeks. It took us a long time, I think, to get an idea of what Rampage's normal viewership is. So if we look at one of the charts here, I guess I didn't need to go in here to do this, but we will. Let's make sure that you can see this. You can. Okay. Let's go to 100% is fine. Let's look at either the demo or the total viewership for Rampage here in the orange line. It took, I don't know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, maybe 8 weeks to really get to where it seems like its normal level is, which is somewhere around 500,000 viewers, a little bit above 500,000 viewers, closer to 600 sometimes. Similar pattern for the demo, and in terms of being about a 250,000 here. So that took 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, about 9 weeks for that to normalize. That's partially driven by this enormous number that it did, relatively speaking, for the CM Punk debut. The bigger, more hyped episodes that came maybe before and after it. It depends on how exceptional, how special the programming is when they do that move. And I imagine they will do a big hyped, this is the first episode on TBS kind of hype. But maybe as much as, 2 months, but the thing is, like, TBS and TNT are virtually equal. I would think that like 99%, very close to 100% of the homes that have TNT have TBS, and there isn't the new phenomenon to analyze like in the case of Rampage, where we know what Dynamite's capable of, but what is a second program capable of? And not just a second program, but a second program at 10. What's that capable of? Those are a lot of different external factors. This is a program in the same time slot, in the same family of networks, going to another network with almost identical coverage. So I'm sure there'll probably be like one big hype episode, and probably within a month and a half, we'll have an idea of what the difference is, if anything, between Dynamite on TNT and Dynamite on TBS. So there's that. I think that's it for now. Do I have things to promote? Thank you all for watching. It's a bigger audience than I expected. I can never predict. I never know why. Or maybe the competition isn't as tough tonight. Maybe the NFL matchup, which isn't even on yet, is weaker tonight. I don't know. You can press like and share. Tell somebody about the Wrestlenomics world, the Wrestlenomics podcast, this weekly program. Subscribe on YouTube if you haven't already. This program is on every Thursday evening, 5:30 p.m. Eastern, and at all of these other times around the world. I think these are right. I hope these are right. This Sunday and every Sunday, I and Chris Gullo and I, discuss all the weeks, not just the TV ratings. In fact, barely the TV ratings. TV ratings are for this program. But we discuss all of the week's news in wrestling business. We'll be discussing the Full Gear, the actual estimates that I've made for Full Gear, what I believe based on information that I've been told, what I think the pay-per-view buys are, what Full Gear actually generated. We speculated last week. This week we will talk in more concrete terms about what Full Gear did and about whatever else is going on in the wrestling business world. You can go to patreon.com/Wrestlenomics. If you're not already a subscriber, for just $5 a month, you get access to my TV ratings reports that come out nearly every weekday. You also get access to the Wrestlenomics viewership spreadsheet, which you just vicariously looked through with me today, plus lots of other stuff. You can go to Twitter, if you must, and follow me at Brandon Thurston and at Wrestlenomics. And thanks again for tuning in. I will talk to everybody next time.